So in this video, we'll be revealing the 15-minute steps that most Americans tend to skip and why it's the reason their early retirement plans in their 50s can fall apart despite having substantial savings. So look, through working with clients who successfully retired in their 50s versus those who maybe didn't accomplish their goals and had to go back to work, we've discovered that the difference isn't how much actually they've saved. It's whether they did one simple income gap analysis that helps them to figure out exactly how to bridge the years before Social Security and Medicare. And that's exactly why we're making this video today, to show you the detailed income gap analysis that separates successful early retirees from those who never make it out of their careers in the timing that they'd like. So look, let's get right into it. This is relatively straightforward, but I have seen it destroy so many early retirement dreams. That's why we've got to talk about it. Most people plan early retirement by choosing a number. Makes sense, right? But the real thing isn't just the balance. It's the income gap from the day you stop working until Social Security and Medicare begin. Now, most people understand that, but let's talk about why this is an issue. Here's how this blindness can affect us. You might focus on the accumulation target, but never map the months and the dollars adjusted for inflation between retirement and the age you claim Social Security and healthcare. You may underestimate healthcare costs, skip the tax modeling, and potentially even ignore some early withdrawal penalties. I hope you don't do that. But maybe you're like some of our clients. Maybe you're assuming that the portfolio is going to fill the gap. But when you actually run the numbers, it's common to see shortfalls of anywhere from a couple thousand to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month in the pre-Medicare years. That's why just enough savings can collapse without a funding plan. Now, why is this more destructive than just insufficient savings? Because savings are meaningless if you can't create income, if you can't sustainably withdraw it in those gap years. So a gap analysis reveals the true cost of an early exit and prevents the shock of discovering, hopefully not too late, that the plan doesn't actually pencil. So the people who succeed in their 50s almost always complete this analysis. And we found that a lot of folks miss it. It's not that complicated, but here's how we do it. So the income gap blindness can destroy dreams, but a 15-minute analysis can reveal exactly where early retirement is actually going to cost. So the quick 15-minute step, it's a structured analysis, but it's designed to help you on the back of a napkin if you need it, project realistic spending by category, layer in tax brackets, and account for penalties on qualified dollars before 59.5. We shouldn't realize those, but some people do. Price health insurance before Medicare. This could be your largest pre-65 expense, the way things are going, and identify which accounts fund each expense which month, and where each dollar actually costs after tax and potentially penalties. Now, honestly, when you do this, you'll probably see between a $3,000 and a $6,000, $7,000 a month funding requirement that generic savings targets didn't actually show you. Now, you've also got to adjust for inflation. That's huge. So why is this more valuable than just focusing on the accumulation planning? Because it gives you a foundation that successful early retirees use to build bridge strategies. You're not hoping markets bail you out. Do it early and you have time to adjust. Save differently, accounts change, we have some problems. Maybe your retirement date needs to get pushed back. Now, look, the analysis can help to reveal your true costs, but creating a bridge strategy shows how you're actually going to fund that gap. So here's how we think about it. I love creating a bridge account. This is just a taxable brokerage account, but this is a huge tool that we can use to fund this gap. So once you know the exact monthly shortfall, adjusted for inflation, you can design a targeted bridge strategy for your specific needs. So you're going to prioritize accounts that don't have penalties, right? Maybe you use lower income years to convert to Roth strategically, opening some later on tax flexibility. Maybe you're going to plan your healthcare coverage more deliberately than just hoping it works out. That might be the marketplace, Cobra, even if you were in the military, that helps. But this transforms impossible into achievable, and it gives you a set timeline. Okay, so the bridge strategy is to figure out what you're going to need to do the analysis, and actually execute these decisions before you get there. Now, planning healthcare coverage deliberately through the marketplace, HSA optimization, maybe even Cobra timing, this is tricky because the plans change each year, but if you do it right, that can transform impossible into achievable. And you'll have specific action steps and timelines to bridge that gap. Now, maybe you've done all this analysis and you're paralyzed. If that's the case, that's fine. That's not unreasonable. We'd be happy to walk you through it. Now, retirement for many people is more achievable than they think. So now that you understand the basics of the bridge strategy and how to develop it, if you need help with your retirement planning, I want to encourage you, click the link. We've created a quick little quiz. Fill it out. A member of our team will reach out to you personally to schedule a no cost, no obligation consultation to see if we may be able to solve these problems for you. Now, I want to talk about some of the healthcare costs that folks may run into. This is probably the landmine that most people underestimate the challenge for. This can be $2,000 to $4,000 a month for a couple. And if you're on the marketplace, this gets a little tricky because your total income is what calculates. It's really your modified adjusted gross income is what determines your payments for your healthcare, how much cost sharing you have. This can be really, really tricky. Now, if we do it right, you can potentially, under the current rules, you can potentially get tax credits to actually pay that, which can be really, really cool. But you don't want to really go without health coverage in your late 50s. It's really not a great idea. Because look, healthcare costs, they can create some major obstacles. But withdrawal penalties on, retirement accounts, that can be another big issue. So I want to talk about how that can snowball into being a lot worse than just overpaying for care. So pulling from tax-deferred accounts before 59 and a half, it'll trigger a 10% penalty most of the time on top of income taxes. Now, that effective rate can be pretty high because you're going to have to take more out to get to that net number, right? So that accelerates the depletion, makes a lot of qualified accounts off limits for early funding. I hope that people know this. There's things like 72T, but let's not plan to use that, right? Because you've got to fund longer periods of time while paying for penalties, and it goes against the whole purpose of those retirement accounts, right? So if used carefully, maybe you have a 72T Roth conversions, you have a taxable account, that can really help to bridge that gap. So we want to avoid withdrawal penalties any way that we can. They provide some access problems. So that's why we create a funding gap analysis so that you're not surprised by penalties or taxes when you're taking out from those accounts. The complete framework coordinates healthcare costs, penalties, and taxes into one realistic cash flow plan. You'll see true monthly requirements and which accounts fund which years. Now, this is so important because you'll be able to map your timelines, your milestones, not relying on guesses. You'll identify specific strategies to bridge the gap so early retirement shifts from maybe wishful to workable. In my opinion, doing this analysis beats just the savings target only because it prevents the late stage discovery that the plan isn't affordable. You've got to adjust for inflation. So systematic planning creates confidence and actionable next steps, even when an initial analysis might show that there are some obstacles. So now that you understand the comprehensive framework, let's look at how to implement this. How do we create a timeline that puts early retirement gap analysis into action? That's what all this is about. So first, we got to project expenses for your pre-Medicare years. That includes healthcare, taxes, housing, and lifestyle expenses. Now you calculate the monthly gap between that and taxes. So if you have a penalty and taxes, we've got to add that on top of that. And then we design a bridge strategy. Maybe we're going to use taxable reserves, maybe plan Roth conversions, be thoughtful about health coverage, and maybe even use your HSA pretty strategically. So you need 12 to 24 months of prep. That's going to beat a last-minute decision every time. So what ensures success? Use a realistic analysis, plan for some of these major obstacles, and implement these things systematically. And we would encourage to use professionals who understand the early retirement mechanics that aren't just focused on accumulation or helping you to build an accumulation target. So now that you understand why most people never retire in their 50s and how a 15-minute income gap analysis can help to reveal the true costs and bridge strategies that you can implement to successfully retire early, we want to encourage you, don't avoid doing this step, okay? And if you want to see whether you qualify for our early retirement gap analysis, I want you to click the link below. It takes about 2 minutes to answer a short survey, and our team will reach out to you personally to schedule a no-cost, no-obligation consultation to walk through your specific options. We've put together a couple of comprehensive videos that dive deeper into these strategies. You can click the link below, see if you qualify, and we look forward to chatting with you soon. Like, subscribe, share, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.